Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Star Wars Lads. If you're new and just joining us for the first time, welcome to our predictions and speculation series. We do this for every single Star Wars TV show where we take what just came out and we try to predict and speculate on what could come here in the next episode. For this series, it is, of course, Skeleton Crew, and we're predicting episode 3. The first 2 episodes just came out last week, and although they came out on a Monday, this next one is coming out on Tuesday, unless we find out later after we record this video that it is changed to Monday. But we're going to talk about everything we think could happen in episode 3 based on our knowledge from the trailers and, of course, just general Star Wars information. Before we get started, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more of these predictions. If you are new and want to join us for the rest of our Skeleton Crew coverage, make sure you join us every Tuesday after the episodes air. We go live pretty much immediately after, around 7 p.m. Pacific time. We will be live taking your guys' questions and discussing the latest episodes with all of you in full spoilers, so make sure you join us every single week for that. All right, let's get into episode 3 predictions. So in the last episode of Skeleton Crew, episode 2, it ends with the kids being put in a jail cell after getting captured by the pirate gang. And they run into, for the first time, Jude Law, who has been in there, and he seemingly uses the Force to grab the key that is hanging there, very Pirates of the Caribbean-esque key. Even guys are whistling at, like in Pirates of the Caribbean, and he pulls it to his hand, and they say, "You're a Jedi," and he shushes them. And that's pretty much where we end the episode. Sanak, when you look at what we got in episode 1 and 2, when you've seen the story beats that they're trying to connect, some of the stuff you've seen from the trailers, where do you think we're going in episode 3?
I mean, we'd have seen a lot of the trailers already, which isn't too surprising with how a lot of the streaming shows have been going. But I think there's enough there to suggest that we're still going to focus a lot on the kids, but maybe not so much in episode 3. I think just the way that we spent like 85 to 90% of the time on the kids and not really with the parents. I want to suggest that maybe we're going to get a little bit more of an At Atton focus for this next episode. And obviously, there's really no other main kids to follow there. So we'll be hearing about the whole ensuing result of, hey, the ship blasted off with our kids. The whole planet is probably shook because there's a whole thing like the barrier and all these other interesting concepts and names that they've been throwing out. And how does that kind of line up with some of the mythology outside of the planet of like, hey, this is like a lost planet of special beings and incredible treasure and all that. So I think this was going to be the first time that some of the adults, like maybe Wim's dad, kind of is like, oh, like you can leave the barrier. Like maybe my son is safe. Like he has to believe that, or maybe he sees something that suggests that they are safe. Because it seems like to me, like the way they were talking about the barrier, the way the kids were reacting, that was something that's going to be like, we're locked away. If you leave it, you're dead. If you try to come through it, you're dead. But it seems like it's almost like an illusion, right? It's almost like they're kind of living through sort of like a Truman Show situation where it's like, oh yeah, no, like it's there and it'll stop you, but it just looks like it was a couple of blinking lights. That's really all it was. So I think there's going to be some repercussions for that. Maybe not immediately, but at least get that question kind of turning in Wim's father's head because he's going to be the one to most directly see what's happening. We're going to get to see Fern's mother. I mean, she's kind of really been in that like undersecretary administrator role, but she's also been showing hints of like, she cares about her daughter who is supposedly an overachiever, is always dressing up to be the model student, but it actually is, on her speeder bike with KB and, just flipping her jacket inside out like she's the Fresh Prince, like she's just having fun being a bit of a rebel at the same time living that double life. So I think now her mother is going to maybe understand a little bit more about her daughter, and now she's going to maybe be trying to uncover some things with Wim's father. I think that would be the angle that they're going to. We haven't really seen any other adults, right? I mean, we've seen neighbors walking their pets and all that, but the rest is really just a lot of robots. It's a lot of droids. So I do wonder just how much of their interactions will be with a lot of these robot administrators, a lot of these droids. we haven't even really seen any conventional droids that we've known of. Like, there's no R2 units, there's no protocol droids like a 3PO. So I'm very curious how sort of these like multi-purpose droids that we've been seeing, how they work hand in hand with like a lot of the adult population. And I could see that these interactions, maybe they're talking a little bit, trying to get some clues, get some information, and they're locked away. And that's what starts them on their path of like, hey, we need to go to the site, we need to figure out ourselves, see some clues. Our kids figured out something. Maybe we can figure out something, being a little older, a little wiser, more keen to picking up on details. So I think that's kind of where this conspiracy angle will start. I mean, we already had the droids kind of patrolling the area, it's saying it's like a forbidden area, but it's still a shortcut that Fern's been using. So is it? Is it not? So I think we're going to get some clues and answers for that, definitely. So I wouldn't be surprised ultimately if this is the start of the conspiracy, if we get maybe 65 to 70% of the episode actually more dedicated on them. They are the only adults we know of so far on this planet, so maybe we get some new introductions as well. But yeah, I think that's really where a lot of this episode's going to bug. And then the remaining 30%, I would assume is going to be a little bit of like the escape, getting back onto the ship. Wim's going to be going crazy and be like, oh my God, you're a Jedi. How do you do this? I've read all your stories. And Jude Law's character, who we know is Jod Nanawood, is probably going to be like, I can't do this. I'm so tired of this kid already, and this everyone, all of them asking questions. And then we've seen little clips of him getting like just worked up by having like be like the babysitter, to be the parent of the group. And I think this is where we'll probably see him say his name, which is very clearly looking like it's more and more fake, because John Nanawa does not really roll off your tongue. And I could just see that be like something that he's like, oh, it's just a Jedi name or something. So I think we're going to play around with that a bit there. But yeah, I think mostly a lot of it's just going to be the escape, understanding a little bit more about the port, getting onto the ship. Maybe we get that scene from the trailer where we have him talking to Neil, being like, Neil, I need you to help fly out the ship. And Neil's like, okay, I'll do that. So kind of playing off how all the other kids kind of stopped Wim from flying the ship in the first episode, and now presented with another chance, maybe a chance to prove himself to the Jedi. And instead, they're going with Neil. And I can see that kind of become like an ongoing gag here. But yeah, I think that's how the structure of that episode is going to go. And I assume moving forward, even though we'll still have serialized storytelling, we might see the kids at least go a little bit more episodic, whereas the parents kind of go on the serialized conspiracy unraveling sort of situation.
Yeah, I have very similar thoughts. I don't know how much more I can add to the parent side. I think we are going to go back to that. We have seen direct interactions between Fern's mom and Wim's dad, and they are going to be talking about, what's going on. And obviously the mom is going to be a little bit more reluctant to believe what's going on because she has an elevated position within whatever their government is on At Atton. And of course, the dad is the one that saw the ship take off. He saw what was going on. So she's going to both have to believe him and also be on board with figuring out what's going on. So we might get a little bit more information on what his job really entails, because it is kind of secretive. Maybe a little bit more about the credits and how they have so many Old Republic credits. What's their system of government like? What are the things that are around there? I don't know if we're going to get fully into the conspiracy yet in this episode. I feel like it might more just be like, now we get the adults' view of At Atton instead of the kids' view, the things that are actually going on, the way it's structured. Start to see those adults question the rules, question the society that they've lived in forever and live in a very much so a utopic planet. Maybe start to question why they live in such a utopic planet. And those questions will start to come into place when they probably reach out to higher ups and are rejected for help to save their children, because obviously nothing motivates a parent like saving their child, even if they are lost in space. So I think we're going to go with that angle. I personally do think we'll start the episode, or at least have the majority of the episode be about the escape and the introduction to Jude Law. I just think because he's the biggest name in the entire thing, because the kids are what are kind of selling the show with him. You're selling it on the 80s kids dynamic, and you're selling it on the Jude Law character. And we're 2 episodes into an 8-episode show. All we've gotten from Jude Law are like a couple lines and a shush in a dark hood. So I think a lot of this episode's going to be us getting to know Jude Law's character. What is he good at? What can he do? How does he lead them? What does he have around the spaceport to where he can, guide them? And I think with a lot of those secrets, maybe paths he knows or ways off the port, we're going to get more and more hints and reveals that he is the captain that's at the beginning of the first episode, because I still very much so believe that he's absolutely that captain. And that's why he's in the prison. So I think we'll start to get more hints about that. Kids will be like, "Oh, how do you know how to do all this stuff?" And he will pass it off as, "I'm a Jedi. That's how I know how to do it." I agree. Wim is going to be all over. I'm very obsessed with learning all the different secrets. Can I become a Jedi? Where's your lightsaber? What are you doing here? What happened during this battle? Maybe some name drops too of some old Republic stuff, like certain wars, New Sith Wars, something like that. Maybe Mandalorian Wars. There could be references to all those different things, because this utopic society in At Atton, if they are truly connected to what is the Old Republic, and they still think they are living in the Old Republic, there might be some just cool lore drop names for some Old Republic stuff that maybe we don't have in canon yet. I would love to hear certain name drops. I don't know if we'll get like a Revan or something, but we could get some next tier, like maybe a Bastila Shan or a Satil Shan or something like that. Some type of reference to some legendary Jedi that do further indicate that we are within a planet that lives in an Old Republic bubble, that thinks they are still a part of the Old Republic, even though the Republic has continued and been taken over by the Empire, fallen, and now has been replaced with a new Republic. So we'll start to hear maybe what they think of and what their history is with this planet, versus maybe Jod Nanawud, who has probably seen or at least been familiar with the fact that there has been an empire, there has been a new republic. He might say, "Who's Bastila? All I know is Luke Skywalker," type of thing, kind of references, or Obi-Wan Kenobi or Yoda or some of these newer Jedi, and they might know Yoda, the kids. But yeah, so I expect to learn a little bit more about At Atton, a little bit more about where their heads are and where their place is in the galaxy, and a lot more about Jod Nanawud, and just to see him in action. I expect some type of action scene revolving around Jude Law, and I expect him to just fully launch into this show. I think a lot of the shots we've seen about with him standing by the ship or sitting in the cockpit of the ship, doing all those types of things, I expect to see all those in this episode, or maybe not every shot, but most of them in this episode. And I expect it to have some high flying action and at least set up the stakes between Jod and the rest of the pirates as we push forward into this mystery, and then some things that will sprinkle and hint towards the larger mystery on At Atton as they try to get home. And we'll see if Jod actually knows how to get back there. It'll be interesting to see if he's heard of it or he's been there. I would imagine that was one of the places he was searching for if he was the pirate captain before it all kind of fell apart and he got mutinied. So we'll find a little bit more out about that. But overall, I think it's going to be a fun, fast-paced episode. I'm hoping for a 40-ish or more minute episode, closer to the first episode. I think the second episode was our time for more fun, short action beats. The first episode was a lot of world building and setup. This is our time to marry both styles, have a little bit of world building, have a little bit of action, have a nice 45-minute, 42-minute episode, and really give us the next step of the journey, because we have fully started on it and we're on board with these characters. Now I hope that the next part of the mystery, the next part of the adventure, is laid out here for us to get excited about the direction that the adventure side of the storytelling is going, because this show, the one thing it has presented itself as is that Goonies style adventure. And with those adventure shows, with those adventure movies, you should be learning a different clue every single episode about the overall mystery. And so I'm expecting the mystery to become more of a force in this episode rather than just the setup of the world like we got in the first two episodes. So those are our predictions. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think we'll see some big character show up like a Hondo Onaka? Do you think there won't be any big reveals and this will be another kind of all world building episode? Do you think we're diving straight into action? Do you think it's gonna be long? Do you think it's gonna be short? Let us know all those things in the comments below. And again, subscribe if you would like to watch the rest of our Skeleton Crew content. Make sure you've liked the video if you haven't. Thank you so much for watching this week's predictions video, and we will see you all next time.